Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Nothing Phone 2 and compare it against the iPhone 14 and see which specific phone is a better one for you. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off side by side, you can definitely see the Nothing Phone 2 is a bigger phone in pretty much every single area. The iPhone 14 is the one with that 6.1 inch, and it's a very good looking panel. I thought this panel was pretty good when it first came out, and it's still holding up quite well. It's a smaller panel than the Nothing Phone 2, but it's still a very good size. You're getting the notch up top, a little bit of bezel throughout, and overall, it's a pretty good looking phone. I don't really have too much to complain about it, and I still think it looks very good in this day and age. Now, with the Nothing Phone 2, I don't know why the screen just sounded like that. This one has a bigger 6.7 inch LTPO OLED display, and it's a pretty good looking panel on this one. I've always felt like Nothing Phone, even the first one was pretty decent. This one is also pretty good too. It's definitely not the worst panel. It's a very, very decent panel, 1080p as well, but it's also 120 Hz screen. It was actually very nice. I like having a 120 Hz panel, and this thing is actually very, very nice from that perspective. The viewing angles are decent, definitely not the best, but you don't have a notch on this thing. You only have that, hole punch, which is really nice. It's much better than the iPhone 14s. A little bit of bezel around the, screen, but it's definitely not anything crazy. For the rest of the bodies, funny enough, they actually pretty much have kind of the same type of build quality. You can kind of see that between the sides of both these phones, they are a little different. They're basically the same thing, not different. Their buttons are different a little bit. But other than that, they're both kind of the same way. I think the iPhone 14 might be a little bit thicker, but they're both almost relatively the same thing. USB-C on the bottom of the Nothing Phone 2. iPhone 14 has a Lightning port. On the back, kind of a cool layout on the Nothing Phone 2. I really do feel like with the Nothing Phone 2, it looks really, really nice. I love this is called like the glyph interface, so it has like lights and stuff in the background. I think that was like a big thing they were trying to highlight, but it's like a okay thing. It's not like anything crazy, but it's a nice thing to have. The iPhone 14, again, pretty much kind of the same thing we've seen from Apple time and time again. Very, very boring. Both feel kind of the same. There is a glass back on the Nothing Phone 2, but I don't think it's as good of quality as the iPhone 14. Like I feel like the iPhone 14's glass back feels nicer. The cameras are dual camera setups on the back. Both of them have like wireless charging, which is nice, but I think for the most part, from that specific situation alone, a lot of overlap and a lot of similarity too, which is pretty nice. So in terms of that on the outside, that pretty much covers it up there. Now, in terms of the software support and how long these phones are going to last there, the iPhone 14 is definitely going to be an iPhone that's going to last for a long, long period of time. So you're really not going to have problems there. The Nothing Phone 2 is also going to be supported for a bit of time as well. With both these devices, they're not really going anywhere anytime soon, and that's something that I like about both these phones. However, I will say the iPhone 14 has the highest likelihood of outlasting the Nothing Phone 2. Although the Nothing Phone 2 now is still on the current version of Android for the most part on Nothing OS, you're still going to be getting a longer lasting phone, I would imagine, from the iPhone 14 than from the Nothing Phone 2 from that perspective alone. On top of that, they both do have IP certification, but the Nothing Phone 2 has IP54 splash water and dust resistance, where the iPhone 14 is IP68 dust and water resistance. So a higher IP certification on the iPhone 14 than the Nothing Phone 2. Another big thing to keep in mind. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. Now let's go into a speed comparison between both these phones. The iPhone 14 has that Apple A15 body chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM. The Nothing Phone 2 has that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset inside with 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, but it does go up to 12 gigs of RAM. This phone has 8 gigs of RAM, so keep that in mind. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background between both, except for this one, and this one's good. So let's get into it. Phone calls, 3, 2, 1. Okay, pretty much the same thing. App stores, 3, 2, 1. Okay, both are taking a long time today. I don't know why. Okay, the iPhone 14 loaded into it. The Nothing Phone 2, taking its time. Not really too sure why. Both are connected to the same exact Wi-Fi's as well. So not really too sure what happened there in the Nothing Phone 2. Camera, 3, 2, 1. Okay, a little bit of a different pop-up on both. It's going to take a photo. Okay, it's going to open up that photo. And I guess we'll just see what ends up happening with these photos in the meantime. Let's go hop out of these two. Let's go get into some of these other apps. Let's try their iMessage apps, 3, 2, 1, or their messaging applications. Of course, we get into these boxes here. Let's go hop out of this one. I also just want to take note of basically when these apps open up and close. So if you get into their multitasking panel, I definitely do get the idea that the Nothing Phone 2 is faster, but I do feel like the iPhone 14 is smoother, which is weird because this one has a 120 Hz panel. Tempo on 2, 3, 2, 1. I'm sure I'm going to get tons of pop-ups coming up on both these devices. Both are download content. Of course, we get this one here. I understand, of course. It seems like this one was still loading in the background. Faster on the iPhone 14, but we did get more pop-ups on the Nothing Phone 2. So kind of a minor thing to keep in mind. The volume is basically all the way up on the Nothing Phone 2. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. And that kind of covers it up there. Let's go and click play. Okay, come on. There we go. Okay, all right, we get it. 3, 2, 1. And between both, don't really know if there's one that's going to be way faster than the other one. Hopping out of these two, let's go and try a different one. Let's go and try Facebook. 3, 2, 1. So we're not logged into an account here, so it's not really going to work. Let's go and try Stack. 3, 2, 1. Of course, we get into these pop-ups. Let's go and get into the actual games itself. And it seems like there's not that big of a difference here. Both are very similar. I'm kind of killing it on both, which is very funny. Hopping out of these two. Let's go and try something like Snapchat. 3, 2, 1. Okay, perfect. Hopping out of these two. Let's go and try something like Twitter. Let's skip that one. I don't even have that. Spotify. 3, 2, 1. Okay, perfect. Hopping out of this one. Let's go and try Netflix. 3, 2, 1. Okay. The iPhone 14 again is the slower one here, where the Nothing Phone 2 is kind of the faster one. I don't know why it's not loading. This one's now not loading, which is crazy. Snake versus blocks. 3, 2, 1. And let's get into this one. Don't really think there's that big of a difference here either, but both are kind of doing really good, and that pretty much kind of covers up the speed comparison. I think they did really well. I definitely do think that the Nothing Phone 2 is probably, I don't know, I think the iPhone 14 is probably the faster one in my opinion, but the Nothing Phone 2 did pretty good too. So that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the camera setups between both, this is also another interesting thing. So between both have dual camera setups, both wide and ultra wide lenses. The iPhone 14's camera though is surprising because you're getting 4K 60 on the front and the back. The Nothing Phone 2, you're getting 4K 60 on the back, but you're getting 1080p on the front of the Nothing Phone 2. So kind of a concerning thing. I always feel like Nothing should have improved the front camera, but this one is also kind of cheaper, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. The iPhone 14's camera, in my opinion, is very, very solid. I've had a great time with the iPhone 14's lens. 0.5x zoom on the outside, which is pretty nice. Zooming in, you're getting a pretty decent lens, like I said before. It's a very, very good camera. You're getting portrait mode, you're getting video mode, cinematic mode, time-lapse, lots of cool features throughout, and definitely would not be the first camera. I think the 14 Pro Max is better, but this is still a very solid lens when it kind of comes down to it. With the Nothing Phone 2, I think this is a pretty solid camera. I think this thing gets the job done and then some. Like, it's a very, very good camera for sure. And, it gets the job done. The Nothing Phone 1 camera was also pretty decent, but it's definitely not great. Like, I don't want to give the impression it's a great camera. 10x zoom on the inside, 0.6x zoom on the outside. So one thing to keep in mind, getting video mode, slow mode, you're getting whatever, portrait mode. I guess you can't even touch the screen here. More mode, which has a few other things inside too. So overall, what I'll definitely tell you is I definitely do think between both these phones, I think the Nothing Phone 2 is probably the device that I'm like probably, cool with. Like, I like this phone. I think it's good. It's definitely not great. It's a good phone. There's not really too much to complain about here. And I do think it's a really good upgrade coming from the, Nothing Phone 2. Or I think it's a good upgrade coming from the Nothing Phone 1. But I think the iPhone 14 still is probably the more consistently the better one in most ways. I like the Nothing Phone 2. But I think the iPhone 14 will probably be the better one for a majority of people out there still. So that pretty much covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.